on YouTube examples of people who are having, you know, some issues with the DLC. The very beginning of this is mostly just, you know, saying what they like about the DLC. So I'm just gonna back it up a little bit. This is mostly intro. I might have to turn this up.
I think you're getting as much value.
I'm gonna make sure you all can really hear this.
The other two. Now, all of this is nice, but after listening to what the community has to say, after thinking about a lot of these things for myself, there were some concerns I had regarding this DLC. Now,
So again, thinking about community, where you're gonna get a lot of this stuff as just an average viewer might be on Reddit, on Steam forums. It's kind of cool that we have streams and YouTube comments, because you might be able to go into the comments and see a bunch of people say trash weapon, F tier, I don't know how to use this thing, blah blah blah. And it's a little tough because you oftentimes see more of the bad than you do the good, or there's like biases there where the more negatives you see, you just subconsciously think that there's more complaints than there are positives. For example, I've actually had a lot of people say that they're winning versus servants and queen too easily and they need to be buffed, and I'm like drowning out everyone else who says they're dying to it for like 3 people. Where's the camera? There it is. 3 people who have told me that Queen needs a buff.
Apart from the game freezing for 15 seconds whenever I enter a new area, as well as some lag happening in the infested shipwreck, one thing...
Okay, so that is true. I mean, I don't experience the loading times, but I do have issues with lag. It doesn't actually lag until it reveals the whole map. So I think there's a fix there somewhere. Because if it's only affecting Explorer's Instinct, then that means there's some weird interaction between Explorer's Instinct and whatever they built for this map.
That I was kind of disappointed by was the ending. So Queen of the Sea is supposed to be the final trilogy,
by the way, spoilers,
to the DLC saga. First we had Bad Seed and then we had Fatal Falls. Now every bit of lore that's being built up is going to come to a close with this DLC. So
Now, speaking of lore, for those who didn't see, they actually had a dev stream at the start of the DLC launch. So the devs were streaming like 3 hours before launch, and there were so many questions about lore. And the 2 people who were up there, they're more about like the gameplay side of the company. So they really didn't have too many answers in regards to lore. But one thing that kept popping up a lot was that Dead Cells wasn't really meant to be a deep, lore-rich game. Think about your Hollow Knights, your Grime, your Dark Souls. Some people don't even care about lore in Dark Souls. Like, it's just like a boss beat-em-up game. So why there's some like barefoot lady with a scythe and her dad is like behind her, and for some reason the dad can revive the daughter and she goes Super Saiyan on you, like, I don't know. Do I care? Not really, but people do. And I don't think that those people are in the wrong at all. If they had like a deep dive into the lore, hire someone new, you are going to write a like detailed story of the servants, starting with Calliope and ending with Cleo. I want to know their backstory. I want to know their blood types. I want to know their star sign, their moon sign, and their elemental sign.
Expected that the beheaded was finally going to leave the island. You know, it's kind of like this big thing that everybody's hyping up, but we didn't actually get that. Like, the queen fight is cool and all, and there are some special interactions, like if you go to her with the king's outfit.
Now, we did beat Queen on 5BC. One person came in, SlimyYy, which is one of the mods. SlimyYy was actually asking, was that the same cutscene in 5BC as it was in 0BC? And it was. Her text before that was different. Would I have liked to have seen a new, like, drawn ending Yes. Now, are we positive that there's no super secret cutscene that no one's seen yet, and only the data miners are gonna actually find out that there's other things you can do? I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna get a comment after this saying, V, I am a data miner. I can confirm that no one has found the super secret ending yet.
Progression. Something that I really enjoy about 5BC is that there is content at the end of the level that's only available to you on this specific difficulty. Thing was going to be different if you beat it on 5BC, right? Because it's kind of like...
So the 5BC piece, that one's a little tough. Because there's a world where if someone's paying $5, remember, the stuff that's in 5BC, that's free stuff. But if someone's paying $5 and they can't do the content without getting into 5BC, I don't know if that would cause more flack than if they didn't do it at all. So for example, you'll have YouTubers, you have Reddit and Steam, these 5BC players who will say that something should be there for the 5BC player, which I agree, there should be something. But I don't know if we really want there to be too much.
I felt like I wasn't too satisfied with. And the second concern I had, and this is probably the most glaring one of all, is their choice of weapon design. So during these past couple
weapon
days,
design,
I
this is
actually had
big.
the opportunity to try out every single weapon that the DLC added. Something that I noticed, a trend that Motion Twin seems to be going down in, is this gimmick with weapons where the best effect of a weapon comes from like its last hit in the combo. So we've seen this with Oven Axe as well as the Tombstone. Just deal.
If you think about the original weapons in the game, you have stuff like your balance blades, your frantic swords, your quick bows. Everything else just comes out immediately. The things that had combos to it were things like wrenching whip, 1-2 kick. We don't like the kick. Hayabusa boots, you do like the combo, and then the somersault. We like the somersault, we don't like the combo. I guess, to be fair, not a lot of the older stuff has it. It's just when you get into Tombstone, Oven Axe, Bone, and the new stuff. So yeah, more new things percentage-wise has that 3-hit passive sort of idea than the old stuff. But I don't know if making it come out immediately is giga busted. I think there's a world where maybe it is. If you're saying that the devs should find a way for the the best hit to come out and not be busted, that is a take. I am sort of okay with that take. I don't know how you would make it not busted. For example, if I could just throw out the wrecking ball and pull it back and that's all it does, I think I would not have to deal with biomes anymore.
The Trident, you don't get the piercing effect until the second hit, and the first hit of its combo is just kind of there. Same goes for the hook hand, you get its...
Okay, Psyche, I'm gonna debate you on this one, just a little bit. I'm not gonna say that anyone's objectively wrong. We're just having a friendly debate. So, Trident...
Hit, and the first hit of its combo is just kind of there. Same...
Trident has this overhead, and then you go into the dash. Imagine if you did not have that overhead. Think about weapons like Broadsword. How many times have you gotten hit by bats because of Broadsword? If all this thing had was the dash, I think people would actually have a worse time with Trident. Now, what I will say is that the final hit of Trident, so it's actually 3 hits, for those who don't know. It's a down slam, it's a charge, and then if you press the button one more time, it does like a second poke, which is almost like an execute. I think that third hit is the worst part of the entire weapon. Hook hand,
for this, and
I'm not going to comment on. I haven't really played it yet.
I do have an issue, however, if the payoff for these effects is not worth it. So let's take a look at the wrecking ball. Okay. If it takes this slow to swing it even once, then the payoff better be the best payoff.
Now, that combo right there against Concierge. Remember, Concierge, that's our training dummy. This is Training Room. So just remember that when you're watching videos like this. Always remember that Training Room 5BC showcases are at the lowest power level of the player, and the boss is only equalized on its damage dealt.
Okay, if it takes this slow,
so this is very much a vacuum here in terms of the damage dealt.
Then the payoff better be the best.
In terms of like, how do you actually get this combo off? Now that's something that I will definitely talk about. So Psyche, I'm gonna like take off a notch for the actual damage portion, but getting the combo on anything not called concierge, I think there is something to be said there. Now it could be that, okay, the devs are thinking, you're not in a vacuum. In Dead Cells, you have 3 other buttons, 4 counting your backpack. Surely you should be pressing one of those other buttons to make that ball and chain work. Maybe it's Crusher. You put Crusher under Timekeeper, then you can do the combo. Maybe it's Wolf Trap, and you put Wolf Trap under Scarecrow, and Scarecrow will probably still hit you. I'm in agreement, because when I took ball and chain into Servants, I got destroyed. And I was actively trying to think, like, how do I get these hits off? And it was borderline impossible. And I could see that as a complaint. Like, if that happened to me, and I wasn't, like, doing the stream or YouTube, I would probably go to Steam community, type up, hey, devs, Calliope, why is she so much better with ball and chain than I am? I mean, was she born with the ball and chain? Why do I suck with it, but she's like OP?
Payoff I've ever seen in a weapon. Except at the moment it doesn't.
I think he's saying that the last hit isn't impactful enough. I can see that.
Fight, at least in the practice
again, this
room
is
with the
a vacuum.
As well as the shark. Notice how I cannot even get a single hit in because I just don't have enough time. The range isn't enough, or the queen just simply moves out of the way. So this is a huge problem for survival builds, because another thing that I noticed, I don't think this is exclusive to ball and chain though. A lot of times on 5BC is that I found out that not all builds are suited for these biomes. So for
every weapon can't be viable for every situation. Fungies, that is a very excellent point that you have there. I did a YouTube comment. This is very unlike me. I put in that, what if, this isn't to say that this is true or not, but what if in a game where you can choose to fight multiple monsters, and oftentimes you can choose the build before you go into the boss, what if Queen and Servants is not the place for certain weapons from the DLC, and instead they're better fit for the Giant, Timekeeper, and Hand the King? Using the ball and chain, for example, you saw how the Queen was absolutely not going to get tagged for that. Hand the King doesn't do all that. Maybe Hand the King is the place for the ball and chain. But someone had a very excellent response to that, where it's like, you buy the DLC, you get the DLC from that boss, but you actually cannot use it against that boss. It kind of makes sense. And I'm not going to argue with that, because that's probably the actual answer. If I killed the monster and got its weapon, the weapon should probably be able to kill the monster. It's just, I'm really struggling on which side I want to land on. You have side A, where it's like, it's a roguelike with choice on the route. You route for the best possible win condition. Or the other side of the field, where it's like, balance means that every weapon should be viable in every situation, at least to some degree. So that gameplay with the Queen, that's F-rank gameplay. That is literally, I cannot fight this boss with this weapon. And if I were to go into Hand of the King, and it's like a D rank, maybe a C rank, that means that the weapon's struggling. If it goes into Hand of the King and it's an S rank, then is that balance? Because it's like incredibly good versus Hand of the King, but incredibly bad against the Queen. I don't know, that's a hard one.
The infested shipwreck, for example, your best strategy is to just kill the enemies before they even do anything, because you have the mutineers that break the floors, they throw their anchors at.
I love this bridge, by the way.
Because you have the mutineers
this is the
that
best
break
bridge
the floors,
in the whole
they
map.
throw their anchors at you. You also got the bombers that destroy the coral floors, disrupting the terrain. It's just a lot that you have to deal with.
So that's That's a good point. If the monster is allowed to do stuff, it's nasty, which is true. Think about slashers, cannibals. Think about the golem, demons, hammers, runners, even failed experiment to a degree. I'd say 90% of the Dead Cells roster, if you let the monster do stuff, you might have trouble. And I don't believe that that's outside of Dead Cells' core design. It almost reminds me of the animated trailer. Anime opening, what? See, this is the true Dead Cells experiment right here. The story, the true story of Dead Cells is the dead guy starts off as a mere pleb that's just dying repeatedly in the first area. He walks out of the Gillian's shop, gets a weapon, dies again and again. Then the Dead Cells character learns the game a little bit, learns that, you know, twin dagger with the bonus critical, the telluric shock with killer instinct or instincto, swaps over to the Hayabusas. And in this scenario where the entire bridge is filled with monsters,
strategy is to just kill the enemy before they even do anything, because
you do not want any of these to act, because if you do, it's gonna be bad. But this is just the power fantasy. It's this. I don't think this is inherently wrong. All I will say is that, like, a new player going into this area, they're gonna actually be watching the monsters. I hope that the new players aren't running around like this.
You have
if they are, then great.
Break the floors,
but I would kind of fear they are gonna not know how to deal with the monster if they get cornered.
Anchors at you. You also.
I don't want to call it rushdown gameplay, but at the highest level, the 5BC level, it's like you're actively trying to understand what monster's the threat, what monster needs to be shut down immediately, and you can still die if you don't do that. If you play it slow and the monster teleports you and you try to fight everything one by one, you have malaise. A 5BC player kind of has to play this way because you're gonna get max malaise.
Goes for the lighthouse fight as well. Like, I enjoy this fight for what it is. It's definitely one of the most interesting fights we've seen in the game. However, it's also
no other
really
fight
chaotic.
like this.
This is probably the one fight I cannot predict the enemy move patterns.
For the most part, fights in Dead Cells at like the 5BC level. So remember, this Psyche's playing at 5BC. That means they've got some hours in the game. So there's a world where they fully understand everything that all the bosses do, up to maybe Scarecrow. If you were to put, and to be fair, I've been watching new people play Dead Cells the last week, ever since the DLC came out. Big streamers too, big and small. And a lot of them are like fumbling over every boss. So what if, as someone with 500 plus hours, you are fighting against bosses for the first time, and you're like going back in time to when you were a noob, and the boss seems incredibly difficult. It's so fast. I don't know where to focus my eyes. I don't know where to focus my attacks. Maybe there's a world where it's actually the same as seeing it for the first time. And you technically are. It's a new DLC. It maybe isn't a matter of predicting what they're going to do like we're used to. Hand of the King, is he going to do the 3-hit combo? If he does, I'm going to parry. Is he going to jump in the sky? If so, I'm going to hit a little bit and then run away. Is he gonna do like the super fast stab and then the down slam? If so, maybe don't parry, maybe just dodge roll and then jump. You're waiting for that stuff because the fight's a little different. I'm not gonna say it's not as hectic. I'm not gonna say Lighthouse isn't hectic. It clearly is. But I think there's a world where it's new to us, and finding that order in there actually makes it not that bad.
A lot of the slower weapons that require some setup, it's just not gonna work. Now I tried going here with the Trident, except I died in that run, because I found out that even the Trident is just too slow and it doesn't do enough damage. The same
stuff about things being too slow and not dealing enough damage, I'm not 100% sure how to accurately say that. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I watched someone do a no-hit with the trident, but they were using Rampart Shield. And the idea is that, oh, Rampart gives you that bubble. If you do the parry and then charge in, you still have the bubble. And if the monster actually is swinging at you while you're charging in, then you're fine. Of course, you could say that with any weapon. You just get Rampart bubble, do your combo, and then rinse repeat. And maybe that's a big piece of the Rampart, and maybe it still is a detriment for these slower weapons. But outside of the vacuum, maybe we are supposed to think about it holistically. It's not that it doesn't do enough damage or it's too slow to hit, it's that we don't have anything else.
Have fast, consistent, immediate effects. You don't have to wait until like the third or fourth hit for the effect to actually come in. It doesn't have to be the most powerful, it just has to be consistent. And that's really all I'm looking for in a good build.
See, now stuff like this, is there a world where another survival weapon could have killed this statue? Maybe.
Effects.
That's one hit away from killing. I think if any weapon didn't kill it just then,
have to wait until
this happens no matter what.
Fourth hit for the
when you go back to get the next hit, this is when it's like it's seen as bad. Because all of a sudden you can't get this hit inside of a mob of like 50 monsters that are all shielded. I'm not saying that like the gameplay is awful. I just mean like this screenshot. If you were to post this screenshot and show it to a Dead Cells player, they're gonna have nightmares for days. I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy.
It doesn't have to be the most powerful, it just has to be
Now, is there a scenario where you just run? Like, don't fight this? Don't even go to Promenade, as a matter of fact. Promenade sucks.
consistent. And that's really all I'm looking for in a good build. But I find out that the weapons that they introduced don't actually do this. Positive that they're gonna change it, that they're going to buff these weapons. So
am I okay with a buff for a weapon? Absolutely. Like, yeah, give me all the buffs. I'll take it. Holy crap. I'll take any buff that you give me. Okay, that's the end of the video. So basically, they're saying that to do a showcase of some of these weapons, maybe not the time for it right now. I'm still gonna do them because going back to our table here, which is not filled out, the shark has so many things in there that I had never even known, specifically around tactics mutations. I think I would still do a showcase of each one. After watching that video, I want to assure everyone that I'm not like being an apologist or anything. I'm not blindly supporting everything without change in Queen DLC. I'd love to see weapon buffs. I personally, my own opinion in here is that I like everything. Maybe not everything's for everybody. And maybe because we're going to Queen and Queen only, like Hand the King who, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot because we don't know how to fight Queen with Wrecking Ball and Shark. Again, thanks to Psyche for letting us do a react video. It's my first time doing something like that. I hope you all don't mind talking about meta of Dead Cells. I used to do it a little more often, but I've been having a lot of fun just playing the game. But I think now we're at a good point that we can just go ahead and start up a run.